everybody, it's Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. I'm here with a wet hair, hurried edition of my BorrowAthon wrap-up. So it is noon on Saturday, and I think that I'm going to call it quits at where I am now. I do have another readathon, the Tome Topple, coming up on the 18th, and that runs to December 1st. So I'm a little concerned about trying to get the rest of my November TBR in because there's a ton of books that I really want to get to. So I'm going to stop now, read some of my November TBR books before the Tome Topple starts. And yeah, I am really satisfied with the books that I read for the BorrowAthon, so I'm not going to push myself any further. So without further ado, let's get in and see how I did with my BorrowAthon TBR, shall we? So first up was Neil Gaiman's Stardust. This was my first foray into a Neil Gaiman book, and I loved it. I wasn't sure if I was going to right off of the bat, and if you followed me on Instagram, by the way, for all of my readathons, follow me on Instagram. My Instagram stories is where I do my daily vlogging of my reading. So if you followed me there, you kind of know how my reading went. Everything for daily vlogging and stuff for challenges will all be there because me filming with my camera and then editing that is just not gonna work for me time-wise. So you'll know that this one was slow for me to get into. I think that there was a lack of world building in this. Like you got the idea of the world, but it just, for such a magical, mystical place, didn't have the kind of in-depth world building that I was hoping for. The character building in this wasn't too bad. Again, it wasn't fantastic for me personally, but I still really loved this. Like, I shed a couple tears at the end, found one of my new favorite quotes, and really did enjoy this. So this is about a boy who is the product of a human and fae interaction. He goes across into fae to complete a task to prove to his true love that he is real. She asks for something impossible, and he goes into the fae world to try to retrieve what she's asked for. And then the story continues from there. And it is actually very beautiful. And I understand now why, people go crazy over his writing style. It was gorgeous. So I think I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really did truly enjoy it, and I'm glad that I got this at the library, honestly just by chance because it was short and I loved it. So now I can say that I've read a Neil Gaiman book and thoroughly enjoyed it. I also read Everything Beautiful in the World by Lisa Levchuk, and I gave this a 1 star. I can't tell you how many times I've given a 1-star rating. It doesn't happen very often, but this was so bad. The essential premise of this is a girl whose mother has cancer. Her father's in the picture, but her mother has cancer. She's at the hospital for the entirety of this book, and the girl refuses to go and visit her at the hospital. She's struggling through school, but kind of like willfully struggling at school because she knows that the teachers are going to let her get away with stuff. And at the very beginning of this, you do find out that she has a crush that within the first section turns into a relationship with one of her teachers at school, her ceramics teacher. This is not broken up into chapters. It's broken up into places or feelings. So you've got the therapist, a sculpting of me, Peter Robin, a Dracula principle, which is this weird thing that they talk about in the book. I didn't like the lead character. She's almost never referred to by her name, so I forget what it even is. The teacher that she's having an affair with is a bipolar freak. He's either super jealous and insane about her. He doesn't care if he gets caught, but then he's mad at her for not taking it more seriously. I just could never get a lock on him. It doesn't have to be a sexy, forbidden relationship, but there was nothing in this that was redeeming. She was horrible to her mother. She was coping really poorly, even though she was in therapy. It just did not vibe with me at all. So between the setting, which was 80s New Jersey, I thought I might relate. I'm an 80s baby. I live in Pennsylvania, but very close to the New Jersey border. Figured I would understand all of that, but nothing about the setting, the people, the plot, nothing gripped me. Next up was Gail Foreman. I was here. I think it was a 3-star. It was bad. I think there was a couple redeeming things about it, which is probably why I didn't go lower than 3-star. This is about a girl named Cody whose best friend Meg kills herself. Cody has no idea why this happened. She's tasked with going to the girls' college dorm, to Meg's college dorm or house, and cleaning up her stuff and bringing it home. Her parents can't bring themselves to do it. So she goes up to the college, doesn't really find much by way of clues or help. She runs into a couple people. Those people kind of turn into leads. She does find her computer, which has this encrypted file on it. The dead girl's parents gift Cody this computer. She finds these encrypted files on it. She wants to look through those, find out what they were. There's some like different email threads that she was able to find on the computer. Her interest has been piqued. She's worried maybe something went down, and she goes on this mission to hunt down who she thinks could be responsible for playing a part in her suicide. I understand that there's all different ways to grieve. There's all different ways of handling suicide, for parent grieving, for mental health, for just everything. There's a lot that goes into that. And I think that those are fine topics to explore. There was a case of insta-love in this book. Drove me bananas. There was no reason for it. There were some plot points that were followed and then just dropped off. There's a little side mission she goes on when she's looking for this person that she thinks might have influenced Meg's suicide. She travels like out of her way to take this little like side trip. Gets there, sits in the car, does nothing about it, and then never talks about it again. Like, there's just so many disjointed, strange things about this book that I think could have been handled so much better. There is this thread that Meg did have depression. She was clinically diagnosed with depression, and her best friend never knew about it. And as somebody who has dealt with depression, I just find that very hard to believe. I don't think that that's something that you ever get used to hiding that well, especially when you're clinically depressed that badly. Yes, there are ways to hide that you're suicidal. There's ways that you can avoid tripping warnings that might be something you're thinking of doing. But generally having depression that bad is very hard to hide from a best friend. And that wasn't believable to me. So there was a lot about this book that I took fault in, but in terms of the topics that it discussed, I understand it's important. I just didn't think it was handled very well. The next thing that I finished was original on my TBR, and this is The Young Elites by Marie Lu. And I ended up really liking this. This is about children that a fever came through and swept the country and left some children scarred and disfigured or with weird physical attributes and also power. The children that have powers are split into two different groups though. So you have children that just have these physical deformities, and then you also have children that have these physical deformities and special powers. The ones that have the deformity and the special powers are called the Young Elites. The Young Elites kind of band together. They want to overthrow the government that is trying to oppress them. They're seen as second-class citizens. Oftentimes they're executed. They're blamed for anything wrong that goes on in their world. There's a lot of hard feelings between the two. So they're trying to get back into power, trying to overthrow the government that's kind of holding them down. It was very interesting. There's a lot of political intrigue in this, a lot of like planning and scheming. Not nearly to the Six of Crows Crooked Kingdom level, but it was still really, really good. So I'm excited about this. This was my first Marie Lu, and I'm excited to read more by her. And then to replace More Happy Than Not, which I still want to read, but I'm going to get the physical copy because the digital copy was just not working for me, I had asked for this. This is Life and Death by Stephanie Meyer. It is a 10th edition Twilight, like special edition. So you get Twilight on one side, flip it over, and you have a retelling. So essentially the Life and Death reimagined retelling is a retelling of Twilight with a gender swap. So you have a female vampire and a male human. I think all of the genders have changed, even within the Cullens, but Beau is Beau Swan, and then Edith is the old Edward. The only character that didn't change genders, I think, is Charlie, so Beau still comes to live with his dad. This, I thought, was going to be like a reworking of Twilight with different gender. It was literally almost a complete retelling. Like, page per page, all the famous quotes and lines, everything, like all the plot points. And in the foreword, she does say like, hey, I made some changes because there were things that I wanted to adapt or I wish I would have done differently in the original Twilight series. So I do make some changes. Obviously a couple changes have to be made just because of the gender. I think the way that Beau finds out that Edith is a vampire is different in this one there's a lot less miscommunication and like awkward struggling for the relationship, at least in this one, which I appreciated. I don't see how this is relevant or adds much. I think she wanted to do something special for the 10th edition. They asked her to maybe do a novella or something. I thought this was going to be like a lot more fanfic based, like a real reimagining, but it's just a retelling. It's not a reimagining. I finished the 5 physical books. So I have 5 physical library books that I finished for the BorrowAthon. And then I do have one more that I started from the library that I did not finish yet. I'm just going to check and see what my progress is on it. I got The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, and I don't know how I have not read that yet, but I haven't read that yet. So I decided to get it on audiobook just because I realized that through this whole BorrowAthon, I wasn't actually listening to anything on tape, so I was wasting a lot of time in my car. I have gone through about 4 hours and 42 minutes of the book, and there's about 9 hours left. So I've been enjoying the heck out of that book so far. I honestly didn't know much about it. I'd heard obviously a ton of people talking about it. I knew it had been made into a movie. I haven't seen the movie, so I was not aware that the story was told from the perspective of death, which adds like a really cool element to it. So I actually am thoroughly enjoying it. I am sure that this is one that I'm probably going to want to own and put on my bookshelf. I do have library books on my TBR for the Tome Topple, so I'm excited that I'm going to be able to continue my love of the library. I hope that you guys joined and that you participated in the BorrowAthon, or that it at least inspired you to take a trip to your library, even if you didn't participate in the BorrowAthon. Go out. Your library is fantastic. They miss you. Go back. So I hope you enjoyed this video and this wrap up. If you did, be sure to give me a big old thumbs up, click subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.